Hello, everybody. Tracy, Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president of JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures podcast, sponsored by the JDog Foundation. Our podcast gives veterans, male spouses, active military members, military family members, and patriotic military supporters a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and they share with me a tactical treasure that has helped them in their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I am so happy to have with me Alex Mauri. Alex joined the Marine Corps at 17 and served 5 years with 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, holding billets across 2 MOSs, including team leader, radio operator, squad leader, and platoon sergeant. After his time in the Marines, he spent 4 years as a police officer in North Idaho. He then dove headfirst into the world of sales and marketing, particularly in the firearms industry. Along the way, he served as a national sales manager, director of business development, and even business manager for YouTubers. Today, he is the co-founder and president of StarBat, a rapidly growing manufacturer of consumer electronic products. A lifelong outdoorsman, Alex has always loved hunting, fishing, and going off-grid whenever possible, but staying connected while doing so was a constant challenge. That problem sparked the idea for StarBat, a rugged, portable power solution built to run the Starlink Mini from virtually anywhere. In October 2024, Alex and his business partner Andrew launched StarBat, which now serves customers across the globe. What started as a personal fix grew into a full-blown business. Hello, Alex. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for your service to the country, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So, StarBat, I think it's an awesome concept. We have much to talk about here, and I have lots of questions, and I'm not very technology savvy, so this I'm sure will be a learning experience for me. But I would first like to know what inspired you to join the Marine Corps.
I grew up fishing with my father. A lot of our friends and gentlemen that I consider close personal friends were 50, 60 years older than me. And so I spent a lot of time with an older generation that you would hear stories on the boat from somebody that has 60, 70 years of life, and they would talk about their 4 years of service. And I identified a common theme amongst veterans that it was some of the most proud years of their life. And if nothing more, the amount of stories and life experience that they gained from their service seemed very valuable to them. And so as a young child, I latched onto this desire for exploration and just wanting those stories and that experience. And so I knew I wanted to join the armed services. And when I was looking across the branches, ultimately the Marine Corps and the mindset of the Marines, or at least the recruiters at that time, really stuck out to me. And there was something to be said about the dress blues. So I made the choice to join the Marine Corps, shipping 2 days after I graduated high school.
Wow. Amazing. I was wondering if there is a particular aspect or moment from your service that stood out as impactful in a positive way, or maybe it wasn't a moment, maybe it was just the whole experience for you.
Absolutely. The less of a particular moment and more of a theme, finding fun in times of adversity, and seeing the endurance that some of my senior leaders imposed on me and fellow Marines really showed me that regardless of how hard or challenging something is, you can really enjoy and sharpen your sword in those times. And so it was actually the challenging times that generated some of the best memories of my life and really increased my own levels of endurance. And that has carried over into various careers since military.
Right. Because so after you live in North Idaho, right? So you transitioned, got out, and you became a police officer. It was that because you just had this sense of service that you wanted to continue to serve in your own community. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so truthfully, being a police officer was always a lifelong dream of mine. I found myself as a teenager doing a ton of research on the hiring process, and I understood that the barrier to entry from an age perspective was 21. And so the question, as I was in my early teens, was what am I going to do in those 4 or 5 years from the time that I graduate to the time that I'm eligible to be a police officer? And so the life experience is what I was after. And so really I used the military as a stepping stone to fulfill my lifelong dream at that time of law enforcement. And I love the fact that every community, county, city, state in the country has a law enforcement agency or agencies. And so I didn't know where I wanted to end up. I grew up in California. I knew I did not want to stay there. And so the career of law enforcement was also attractive, and I could go wherever my divine leader led me, and I would always have a career.
Right, right. Oh, I love that. I've heard, you know, Marine Corps, Army, or just armed forces in general being a stepping stone to college or higher education. And so I think it's very interesting that you used it as a stepping stone to fulfill what you always wanted to do, which was being a police officer. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. So how did you go from being a police officer to delving into sales and marketing and getting involved in that? I would love to know how that started to happen, and obviously took you to Starbat. I'd love to hear the inspiration for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So about 4 years in, the initial excitement of law enforcement had kind of worn off. I
Mm,
still believe it's one of the most fun jobs in the world, but that initial attitude that you join law enforcement with, where it's just running fast at calls and fighting bad guys, that kind of starts to wear after about 4 years, and you start understanding the reality of the career that you're in. At that time, I was working graveyard. I worked graveyard for 3 years straight. I have
oh,
young
wow.
children, and I started to notice the effects of law enforcement were carrying over to my personal life.
Mm,
At work, I was a very proactive law enforcement officer. What lit me up and where I found passion was making something out of nothing. I loved narcotics enforcement and I loved DUIs, and and so I was extremely proactive. And in today's day and age of law enforcement, proactive policing can get you in some hot water at times. The
right.
part the harder you charge, the more contacts you're going to make, and the more contacts you make, the higher the liability you're going to have. And so I was always finding myself in uses of force or court or just all of the things that come along with proactive, hard charging police work. And I had a phenomenal mentor who was a sergeant of mine, Nick Lowry, who's still a close friend of mine. And he brought me into his office one day and he said, "Hey, I fully support whatever you want to do, but I want to make a career suggestion for you. If you took your attitude and your proactive approach into a career in sales, you would be unstoppable." And I'd never really thought about sales as a career before, but I started really connecting the dots that what was making me successful in law enforcement and leading to the opportunities that I was generating on the street was the same skills that would transfer into a sales environment. You make contact with an individual that can come from any walk of life, and you have to immediately pick up on their communication styles. You have to be able to build a rapport and a relationship in the first few minutes, if not seconds, of an encounter, and build rapport and trust before you can move on to the sales pitch, if you will. Whatever
Right.
the desired outcome, whatever you're working towards, whether it's a domestic violence investigation or ultimately you're trying to search a car because you believe there's narcotics, it's a sales cycle. And I didn't quite understand that until I sat down with Nick Lowry, and it led me to just cruise the internet of I've never thought about a career in sales. What's out there? And I found some positions in the firearms industry, and one thing led to another, and I made a leap of faith.
Wow. Wow. That is an interesting analogy that your sergeant made, and that you've connected the dots, and kind of how you encounter, you know, a car stop or whatever, again, how you compared it to the sales process. Uh,
And I
but
think
it, but when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. It really does.
and I think law enforcement officers, a large portion of my peer group in law enforcement has since transitioned out of law enforcement. And as a general statement, most of them are extremely successful in careers that revolve around sales. And so I think the skill sets lie in successful law enforcement officers. And I think something that we need to constantly remind our nation's law enforcement officers that feel stuck is they do have transferable job skills. A similar crisis that plagues the veteran communities, they don't understand always how their job skills transfer so well into the civilian sector. You know, there's a
Sure.
few terminology switches that are certainly needed to
Hmm.
have that level of awareness, but I'm seeing, at least in the law enforcement community, a lot of very successful businessmen coming out of uniform.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. So, so you're in sales, you're in the firearm industry and Starbat. How did that come about? How did that get started? What was that inspiration?
Yeah. So this has really been a God breathed journey. Um, I was working as a W-2 business development director, largely responsible for partnerships of a large firearms company. And I started to develop a side gig, um, doing some sales and marketing on the freelance side. And one of my early clients just happened to be both an attorney, a prominent attorney in the firearms industry, as well as a large YouTuber. And so, in an effort to monetize that channel, I started to dip my toe into advertising. And that grew very fast. And it grew to the point where I was able to leave full-time employment and run a advertising agency focused around firearms on YouTube. Well, as I was probably about 6 months into this, I managed about 12 channels on YouTube, really enjoying the world of advertising. YouTube's policies began to change and become very restrictive for advertising on firearms channels. An
Mm,
example of that is a policy shift where we could not include links to website that sold firearms or firearms accessories. And it threw a significant wrench in the business model, and
sure.
content creators were very worried about their channels disappearing. YouTube was looking for any reason to demonetize 2A channels. And so there was a awareness that I had of, I'm going to need to pivot here. And I don't know what that pivot looks like. Right at that awareness moment, if you will, the Starlink Mini through SpaceX launched. And so the Starlink Mini is about the size of an iPad. It is a satellite router that, as long as you have power and you have a clear view of the sky, you have high speed internet everywhere in the world. Well, my personal hobbies include fishing and hunting, and I spend a large portion of my fall traveling the country, chasing game. And that was the number one limiting factor to being able to run an agency is I need to have cell phone reception and I can't go too long off grid. Well, I have a moment where I recognize the business model needs to change. I don't know what it's going to change to. And I had a 3 week vacation plan that I was incredibly stressed out about how am I going to run my agency while I'm
Oh
off
my
grid essentially.
gosh. Right. Yeah.
I reconnected with a close friend from church, Andrew Cole, who's now my business partner, and he let me in on a prototype that he developed. The very first working prototype of the Starbat Mini. He said, "Why don't you take this on your 3 week trip and let me know your thoughts?" And within a matter of days, I realized that I found the pivot that I was looking for. That this product would change lives across the globe, and that Andrew really had developed something great. And so I decided that we were going to go all in and build a business out of it.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And you know what? And I've been to the website and this could be used in, I guess, disaster situations, like if people don't have power but need internet access or help with cell phone service. Does something like this, like, I don't know, power other appliances in your home, or is this strictly just like computers, laptops, electronic type devices?
Our product is designed to power, namely electronic devices. It's built
Okay.
specifically for the Starlink dish, but we do have USB and PD ports to charge laptops, phones, other communication equipment. And
Okay.
future models are going to incorporate things along the lines of radios. But people, you mentioned crisis. we launched this company to the world a few weeks before our crowdfunding campaign, before the hurricanes of 2024 hit the southeastern part of the United States.
Right.
And
Yeah.
all we had was a website. There wasn't even a way to purchase a product yet. We were raising awareness for our upcoming Kickstarter campaign, and the awful Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene hit the
Right.
southeast. That presented a massive opportunity for Starbat to validate our, what we were calling at the time, our final prototype, and really test it in real world conditions. They sent tens of thousands of mini dishes down in those regions that had no communication, but there was also no power. And so those dishes were essentially paperweights. And so we had extremely credible organizations reach out to us and say, we'd love as many units as you can get us. So that offered both a cash infusion for a young company, as well as a really market validation and product validation moment for us. And that has continued in disasters, to include the fires that plagued California last year as well.
Right. Right. Wow. That's amazing. Okay. So I think I told you I'm not very technology savvy here. So the Starlink, that was developed by Elon Musk, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. So in order to work or have the Starbat, it needs to work with the Starlink.
That's right.
Correct?
That's
Okay.
right. So
All right.
Elon, and through SpaceX, has a network of satellites, low orbiting satellites circling around the Earth. And Starlink is a series of receivers that users can purchase to connect to that satellite network. He launched what's referred to as the mini dish, which the whole idea on the mini is it's an extremely portable solution. Like I mentioned, it's about the size of an iPad. And all you
Right.
need is power and a view of the sky, and you have high speed internet on any point on Earth, excluding restricted countries like China. And although that is a huge capability, that power requirement was a big one. And so the customers that were purchasing the Mini, they're buying it because they value the portability of it. And generators and other power solutions just simply aren't that portable. And so we
Right.
took what's looked at, it's not an actual Pelican case, but what's generally accepted as a Pelican case style briefcase. We took the ruggedness of that, modified it to include a large battery in it, and we mount Starlink dishes inside of it. And our cases are radio transparent. And so just think of a connectivity football. This Pelican case, as long as it has a view of the sky, you press one button and you have high speed internet.
Wow. That's
Hello,
amazing.
viewers and listeners. Are you a military veteran or military family member and looking to own your own business? If so, go to JDog.com and check out our two veteran-focused franchises, JDog Junk Removal and Hauling and JDog Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. Our franchisees nationwide are always looking to hire fellow veterans and patriots. JDog is the world's largest military franchise system with hundreds of locations nationwide. We are nearly 90% veteran owned with the goal of reducing the veteran unemployment rate to under 1%. Check us out. Go to jdog.com to learn more. Now, back to the podcast.
It really took off in at the end of 2024, right? With the hurricane, and then this year in California, correct? With the
That's correct.
fires. Yeah.
That's
Wow.
correct.
That's amazing. And so the Starbat Mini, it's available on your website. Do you have other products coming out as well? And when would they be available?
Yeah, so the Starlink Mini is our current flagship product. It's available on our website right now. We make a series of accessories for it to include vehicle mounts, as well as a solar panel that you need about 5 hours of sun a day, and you can run this indefinitely. And so, although we have no control over users' environmental situation, if
Sure.
you can squeeze 5 hours of sun a day, you can truly run this thing indefinitely. We tested that out in Nebraska out on an antelope hunting trip last year, and we ran it for 9 days off grid, no other power source, and never lost high speed internet.
Wow. That's amazing. I love it. And so, could you just do a shout out to your website for me?
Yeah, starbat.com. That's star-bat with two T's.com.
Okay. Love it. Um, this has been amazing. Absolutely love this product, because, when the power goes out and it's out for a couple days and you're trying to charge a phone and all that sort of thing, it would be awesome to be able to have, internet power regardless, right? Whether or not you have power, you
And
know?
we take that for granted.
Yeah, true.
I'm guilty of it too. My phone, it's 10 a.m. here. My phone is, we're already down in the 70 percentage. And
Right.
how far does it get down during the day? Crisis hits, and we overthink that our cell phones are often our only source of communication and the ability to
Right.
coordinate response assets. And so
It's true.
having an emergency battery that's not only dedicated to high-speed internet, but just being able to charge all your devices
Right.
is huge.
Yeah, definitely huge. Because you never know when you're going to have an outage. And once it happens, you never know how long that's going to be. And yeah, I got you. Okay. So this has been great, amazing discussion. I've learned so much. But Alex, this is Tactical Treasures Podcast. So I have to ask you, what is your tactical treasure? What has helped you along the way in life, your journey? Could be physical, could be not physical.
The mindset of mission accomplishment. And I'm going to piggyback that off of, we like to use ditties in the Marine Corps, at least that was the terminology, for fun acronyms. And so for the 14 leadership traits, we use the ditty JJ did tie buckle. And that has stuck with me since I learned it and had to recite it in boot camp. And that's justice, judgment, dependability, initiative, decisiveness, tact, integrity, enthusiasm, bearing, unselfishness, courage, knowledge, loyalty, and endurance. And endurance really speaks to that mindset of mission accomplishment that I was talking about. The mindset that your plan is going to have to change. You're going to face adversity, and things are not always going to go according to that plan. And you just have to endure the challenges that are presented in front of you, and you need to accomplish the mission. And there's no other option other than mission accomplishment. That mindset has led me through some extremely challenging times in my personal and professional career, and understanding that at the end of the day, you have to do what you need to do to accomplish your mission. I believe that single frame of reference has made me very successful.
I love that. That is an awesome tactical treasure. Um, and that's a lot to remember.
It is a lot to remember.
But I love that it has stuck with you because I'm sure it's helped you navigate life, from every aspect, right?
Marines are simple creatures. And so if I can go down to 14 traits and I look at, do my actions align as a leader? Do my actions align with these 14 traits? It's helped keep things in perspective, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That is a very awesome treasure. I love it. Um, so this has been an awesome discussion. I would have just a couple little additional questions for you. Any advice for your fellow veterans that are struggling with transition or just, yeah, struggling with trying to figure out their next step after service?
Absolutely. My message to the veterans that are questioning what transition looks like or are struggling with their transition is you are valuable and you have skills. Your time in service was incredibly challenging, and you developed both professional skills that may be utilized in the workspace. But even if your MOS doesn't align with what you want to do when you get out, you have developed character traits that are so sought after in the sector that I would encourage you, if you need that breakthrough moment of how does my experience lead me to the next chapter of my life, get a mentor who has done it. And although your journeys may be different and your passions may not be aligned, having somebody to help you understand the skills that you obtained in your time of service, How do they translate to the civilian market? What do you want to do? Where do your passions lie? And I'm confident that you will find with good mentorship that a lot of what you have gained, it will be extremely valuable in the civilian sector.
I love that. That is great advice. And um, yeah, there's still that civilian military divide, unfortunately, that a lot of the private sector doesn't recognize the amazing talents that our military veterans bring to the table. Just character traits and just, incredible leadership skills. So yeah, figure out what your passion is and move forward, right?
Absolutely.
Um, so before you go, can you tell us where people can find and connect with you and where they can find out more information on Starbat?
Yeah, so we're on all social media, Starbat USA. Of course, our website, starbat.com. And then you connect with me personally on LinkedIn, Alex Mauri, Mauri. I'm happy to offer that mentorship that we spoke about to any veterans that are looking for help transitioning or in a point in their lives where they're struggling to understand how their service is going to play advantageous for them moving forward. Happy to connect and work with you to open your eyes to the value that you really bring to the civilian sector.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Um, I love your story, Alex. It's been amazing to talk about your journey with Starbat. I wish you guys much success. It's obviously a very needed product, and I can't wait to see the other product rollouts that happen with Starbat. Thank you
Well,
so
thank you very
much.
much, Tracy. We really appreciate you having me today.
Hello, viewers and listeners. We have just finished up an amazing conversation with Alex Mauri, who is a Marine Corps veteran and serves now as the co founder and president of Starbat. Starbat founders, Alex is a Marine Corps veteran and former police officer turned entrepreneur. He understood the real world need for a portable power solution, not just for adventurers, but also for first responders, rescue teams, and professionals who rely on internet access in extreme environments. Andrew, the other co founder, is a mechanical engineer with a proven track record of designing cutting edge technology. He thrives on solving complex problems, and when he realized the missing link in off grid connectivity, he got to work. What started as a one off solution for their own needs quickly gained traction. Other adventurers, emergency responders, and professionals saw the value immediately. In October 2024, they officially launched Starbat with a crowdfunding campaign, and the response was overwhelming. Their 30-day goal was met in just 3 hours, ultimately raising over $100,000 on Kickstarter. The demand was clear. People needed reliable off grid power, and they believed in what Starbat had built. The mission: empower people to go further and stay longer, give people the power to stay connected when it matters most, and design rugged, reliable power solutions that work anywhere. To learn more and to purchase, go to starbat.com, and I'll spell that STAR dash bat, BATT.com. Thank you for tuning in. And don't forget, you can find Tactical Treasures Podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, American Grit, our website, jdogpodcast.com, as well as our dedicated YouTube channel. We are now airing on Reese Across America Radio on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you missed that, be sure to join us for the encore on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also find Reese Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. We're also proud to share that our JDog Foundation is a Reese Across America sponsorship group. For each $17 Veterans Wreath you sponsor, $5 goes directly back to the JDog Foundation, whose mission is to prevent veteran suicide and heal veterans' mental health and PTS. You can donate right now at reaseacrossamerica.org/JDog. Again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again on another podcast real soon. Bye-bye now.